Hello. It's almost 8 o'clock. I'm just signing on a few minutes early. We're chatting about real estate tonight with Jen Baptista, who is a real estate agent who leads with intuition. As you can see, I'm in a new location, which we'll talk about. I had to jerry rig this up because I am not set up yet where I am for work stuff. And I jumped in the shower before this. So, hello to everybody coming on. I'm excited to chat with Jen. This has been something I've been looking forward to all day. Today was a weird day, wasn't it? A lot of weird things happening. Until you take a breath, settle in. I've been on the go, which we'll talk about with everything. So this is my first chance to take a breather today and just chat and have a nice talk. And I'm excited to hear what Jen has to say about everything in the real estate world right now. So I hope you are all having a good day. As you can see, I'm already ready for bed. I'm sitting on the floor, so that's fun. Very exciting stuff happening at Fresh Starts. We have a new astrologer who is an expert. We're really excited to have her. There's Jen. Hello, Jen. Let's see if we can invite her in. There we go. In. Make sure my sound is up. It is. Let's see. My light is a little funny in here. It's definitely been a crazy week, right? March has definitely roared in like a lion energetically, and hopefully it goes out like a lamb because I'm tired. It's been one of those weeks. Let's see here. Jen, let me know. There.
I tried to use this for my computer and it just did not work. So we're just going to stick with my phone, which is what I know.
You're good. You're all good. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm moving, so it's a
I
perfect time to talk.
I was honestly waiting for you to be like, I just can't do this. So I give you so much kudos because I would be sleeping in a moving box right now if I was you.
Well, I am. I moved out of my house, and I'm actually staying at my parents' because, as we'll talk about, this is a seller's market, not a buyer's market.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm on the floor of my childhood bedroom. So that's where we're coming to you
Sweet.
live from. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you for
You
having
are,
me.
you're an awesome asset to the whole community, and I absolutely love your mission and everything you do. So can you just introduce yourself to everybody? Who are you? What do you do? Why? And you work very differently than everybody else that I've
Yes.
in your industry. So I would love for people to kind of learn a little bit more about that.
Sure. Thank you so much. I am Jen Baptista. I call myself the spiritual realtor. I am based out of Boston, Massachusetts. So the market's crazy wherever you are. So it doesn't matter if it's here, there, and everywhere. The market is just bananas. And what I do is I teach my clients how to use their intuition to buy and sell their home. Mostly because when you are, and Olivia can attest this, when you're in the thick of it, so much gets so much, there's so many emotions and so many things can just go awry. I just keep saying, go back to your gut. What is your gut saying? Let's have a decided number saying this is our max and we're not going to go over. And just so when things when everything goes off the rails, because it absolutely will at some point, we still can have a guided mission to stay on track and get where we need to go.
Yeah. I love that. I'm just Instagram. It's one of those days and nothing's working right. Is this
It's fine.
happening for you too? It's okay. I couldn't see you. So I love that. And how can you look just a little bit more about your background in real estate? So you do this on your own, right? You're not
I am a
okay.
part of a team up here. It's the Debbie Longo Realty Group. The spiritual realtor part is completely on my own.
Okay.
I became a realtor about 4 years ago.
Okay.
But before that, I was a stay-at-home mom. So I wanted to do something that I loved. And I wanted it to be something I could do with flexible hours. But before I was a stay-at-home mom, I was a real estate legal assistant. So
Okay.
I did like the legal back end for almost 12 years. So like I was the person who got together your closing packages and got together like all the tax information, all the
That stuff
insurance,
is it's so much stuff.
so much stuff. So much like I'm the girl who's like, I need your photo, I need you to send this again. Like I'm
Mhm.
that person. So I loved real estate. I always loved being a part of someone's story and like I always
Yeah.
wanted to be like a positive influence. So like when you got to the closing table, you could smile and be like, thanks, you did a great job. Like I like being the smile at the end of the story, I guess.
And I love that. But you also have this other side of you. So the whole spiritual side, which I
Yeah.
know because you've read from me before. So
Yeah.
you do Reiki, you do tarot. So you have like a lot of things you're very good at.
Oh, thank you. I have a whole other holistic side. So when the pandemic hit, and I had nothing to do but really stay home with my family, I got into tarot and I just fell in love with it. And oddly enough, when the pandemic hit, I was like, that's it. Like my real estate career is just going to crash. And I actually had the best year I've ever had.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because I mean, there was really like nothing else to do, like except for
Yeah.
people to go look at properties.
Yep.
So it worked out actually really well for me. Um, and that's when I was working with so many clients and seeing how crazed people got that I was like, okay, well, my gut is saying this. And I was teaching people what is your gut saying? Like how do you feel? When you walk into a house, like I've walked in with houses, I'm like, what's the first thing you feel? If you feel let's go. Like we don't need to
Yeah.
see the kitchen. I don't care if it's a finished basement. If you don't feel it the minute you walk in that house, it's not going to work. If it doesn't feel like home, it's not worth it.
I love that. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much energy spaces hold.
Yes.
Obviously, like that's our big thing at Fresh
Mm,
Starts, right? Is filling up the space with the things that hold new
mm,
positive energy. But I can tell you from moving out of the home that I got divorced in, and I loved that
mm.
house and it protected me. It had the walls held a lot of
Yeah.
energy. There's a lot there.
It like it holds. So I also do home cleansing. So
That's right.
if you have, if you buy a house and you love it, but you just feel like something's kind of off, I come in, I can remove any sort of like unwanted spirits, unwanted negative like energy. I also, hi Jen. I also what I do is I ask people like, are you Irish? Are you Italian? Are you whatever kind of um, ethnicity? I can never say that word right. Background. What is your ethnic background? If that like resonates with you, because every culture has their own home blessing. They all do. Like the Irish have theirs, the Italian have theirs. So like if I go into an Italian home,
Right.
I take salt water, seawater, and then I also take olive oil and I put it in the corners because that's what they did in Italy. I've
That's
done some research.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's really cool. Like if you want to like start looking up like, if you're interested in your heritage, there's like a whole way to bless your home so that like your ancestors can come through and protect you in a new way.
I love that. I had no
Yeah.
idea. That's so
Yeah.
cool. And I
Yep.
do feel like it makes a big difference. Like, you can really feel um, the energy in a space negatively and positively. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I was walking through my house today as I was getting it ready to sell, which we'll talk about that whole process. But it's mostly empty, and I could still feel the energy in the house.
Oh,
Like it's so fascinating to me.
I think you can probably actually feel the energy more once everything is out, like all the clutter and everything's out. Like once like the toys are gone and the furniture's gone, like you can be like, oh, like, you know, that corner is like, you know, where like we get like one of our first kisses in the house, or
Right,
like
right, right,
that's where our first Christmas tree was, or those little
right.
moments, like that stuff kind of creeps back in your memory. When you have like all toys and furniture and all that kind of stuff, it will get in the way of like the root of the home. So when it's empty, I would probably say it's
Hmm.
even more emotional.
That's really, I did not think about that. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the housing market right now, because I can tell
Whew.
you Okay, so I know, like, here I'm on Long Island. It's
Hmm.
crazy. There's nothing for sale, like nothing for
Yeah.
sale, and everything that's right. Jen said there's nothing left to
Mhm.
absorb the
Correct.
energies. That's true. And
Mhm.
then and I don't know much about real estate, but I just saw on Twitter somebody said in Austin, Texas, people are offering, $150,000 over asking price for things. So, from your estimation, what is happening? Obviously the world is in turmoil right now too, but what's going on?
So it's because interest rates are still so low. And we just keep saying, well, they have to go up. They have to go up. And they like might go up like a tiny bit, but like not enough to like really make things kind of even. Um,
Okay.
it's it's not even like before it used to be like single family homes were like the thing and or like condos. Now it's just anything. If you have a
Okay.
property to sell, you are just you're in it. It's I'm hoping and praying to God because I'm more of like a buyer's side agent. That things like you don't want them so like if the real estate market's like a balloon, right? You don't like you want the air to come out slowly so that like
Right.
interest rates like might go up and then prices might come down. If it explodes, it's going to be like 2007, 8 when everything crashed and that's bad. We do not want to go back to that. We want the air to slowly come out so that like the balloon's not going to totally explode, not going to be totally deflated. It's going to be like just right. That's how I explain where we want to be in this process. Right now, the balloon is bad. Um, the balloon
Okay.
is tough.
Yeah.
I just tell people this is where the intuition comes in. Um, be patient. You know, I I'll give some of my favorite tips towards the end. Like be patient.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I have clients who like want to go out and like see everything. I try for my clients personally. I go view homes. So a bunch of things come on like Thursday and Friday. I will go and be like, so Saturday and Sunday comes, they're not wasting 4 hours of the day. I'm like, that
Yeah.
one's worth seeing. That one's totally off. That one won't work. It makes my clients' life much easier if I can just do like kind of like the heavy lifting for them. So their weekend isn't spent looking at properties that are going to be of no interest to them. You know?
Yeah, and it's emotional to look at houses. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
like, when you go into every house, it's like you're picturing your whole life in each house, and you have to. I mean, I remember, I bought my house almost 8 years ago now, but we looked at a lot of houses, and it's like it's a big process to go look at every house and test everything, and
It's quite draining and just daunting. And then like when you're putting in offers, you have like that rush, like it's like an adrenaline rush. And then you have like either the come down of like not getting it.
yeah,
Um, in a way, it's like kind of like dating.
it
It's
is.
it's like dating. It's like here's my all my financials, and I hope you pick me and like me the most. And you have to pray for the best. So like I try to tell people if it's been like a couple weeks of like solid rejection and there's something that you don't love, let's take this weekend off. Like let's not just put in offers to put in offers. Like let's take a break, kind of like control alt delete, and then we'll hit it like next week. We'll like reassess and go from there. But you will get
Yeah,
burnt out if you just keep consistently look and offer. Especially like I know people who put in offers on
yeah,
houses. I'm like, do you even like this house? Like, do you even want to live
right,
here? Like,
right.
it's don't become desperate. Like that's when things can like really go wrong.
That's interesting. And energetically, that makes sense, right? When you're
Yeah.
when you're searching for something like that. So what do you do with your clients, like, in terms of when you do walk into a house to look at it? What are some of your tips for, like, checking out a house?
So what I look at is like aesthetically, like obviously, like don't look at paint. Paint can be changed. Um,
Yep.
Obviously, like, and I think we've discussed this, but like on the article from Apartment Therapy, like
Yep.
carpet is out, but carpet's an easy, like if you have any sort of like handiness to you, get it ripped up. You can put on like LVT, which is laminate vinyl tile. It's cheap, well, it's not cheap, it's cheaper. It's
Yep.
so durable. My dog pees on it every single day, 10 times a day. Like if you have kids, it's super easy to clean. It's just, and it looks like wood. It's great. And it lasts
Mm,
forever. And if you don't like it,
yeah.
rip it up and you can start over. Paint, I don't talk about anything structural, like, or like that's for the inspection. We'll get
Yep.
into like the whole contingency stuff in a second. Like look at, like I try to spell, like look at the bones and look at the potential. Like if you walk in and you can picture like a Christmas tree, like I said earlier, you're
Yep.
sold. That's your home. Like if
Yeah,
you,
and I think no, totally. For me, like one of the big things is location, right? So like obviously like I know my next house I want it to be closer to certain like, stores and downtown and things like that. So you can't change that, right? Like
no.
that's something that like you have to like, maybe do you make a priority list with your clients or how does that?
So I always tell them like, what are your like non-negotiables? So like
Right.
location would be one of them, obviously price.
Yeah.
When you're doing location, like, is this because you want to be closer to your work or you want to be closer to your family?
Mm,
With your people, something like, oh, I want to be closer to my family. Okay, well,
right.
logistically, how, like, then I have them kind of break it down. So you want to be close to your mom and dad. That's great. So they love that. How often do you see your parents? Oh, like once a month, once every other month. Okay,
Right.
that's great. But you're going to work every day.
Right.
So if you're going to now have a 2 hour commute
Right.
and you're only going to see your parents, like I try to like break it down, like how
Right. Right. Right.
is this going to change your quality of life? Because
Mm-hmm.
people don't always like, I'm like, if it's 30 minutes on a Saturday,
Right.
it's going to be 45 minutes to an hour during rush hour. So like those things like people don't think about, like, oh, it only took me 15 minutes to drive here. Well, it's going to take you
Right.
45 on a Monday. So
Right.
things like location are a huge, some people are very specific, like they want like a colonial, or I try not to get too stuck on that because that's, some people have to have a garage. I had clients who they had motorcycles, they absolutely had to have a garage. I would love a garage. Garages are great. Um, but other than that, like the price and location are paramount into like making a decision. But you have to have like a, like some people want to live in a certain town. Well, you know what? If you want to live in that town because they have great schools and amazing houses, I bet you everybody else does. So let's like look maybe 5 to like say 7 mile radius around and try to find other places that are going to work for you just as
Right.
well.
Right. That makes sense. Do you have clients ever that are like that have no idea what they want and you have to work with them to like even get to that place?
Um, yes. So people would think that someone who has like not very particular about stuff would be great. It's you actually, I need to have like some sense of like
Yeah.
what you're looking for, like some guidance on like where we're headed with this journey. Like Boston's like a kind of big place. Like, do you want to be like 10 miles north or 10 miles south? Like, what are you looking for? You can't just be like, oh, I want to live near Boston. Like, we have to have like a radius. Because some people, but people in Boston are very particular about like where they want to live. So
Yeah.
that's, you don't really run with that too much. But luckily my clients have been pretty set on like what they're looking for. I tell my clients all the time, there's like certain things you don't settle on. Like you don't settle on food, you don't settle on a spouse, and you don't settle on a house.
I love
So
that.
yeah.
I love that. And you probably, I'm guessing, attract a certain type of client too. Because I'm guessing that you don't have like people that are really like rigid and, not open minded come to you because you're so open minded. And
So I honestly work, most of my work is with first time home buyers.
oh, okay.
I love I love the hand holding.
Yeah.
I love I love how um they're just they're not very like they're so excited. I live off their excitement. They're not, really looking into like downsides. Like there's just so much like joy
Hope,
about them.
right. Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I hope.
that
It's
is
right. It's very hopeful.
yes. Like this is like the
Yeah.
big I tell people all the time, this is the biggest financial commitment you're ever gonna make in life. I want you to I take it just as seriously as you do. So I love first-time home buyers. Most of my clients are first-time home buyers, and I hope it stays that way. Just because it's like a new oomph, you know?
Yeah, no, and like you said, you love being part of their journey and their story, and I love that.
Yeah.
So before we finish up tonight, what, because you have such an experience with first time home buyers, if there's somebody listening right now that is, you know, has never bought, has never even thought about buying, and this is not necessarily the time to buy, what would be some things they could do just to get, like, plan ahead a little bit? Like, what do they need to get their financials in order, or what are some things they can do to get on that road?
So the first thing I always recommend is talk to a lender, a qualified lender. Myself or whatever agent that you're working with will have plenty of names to give you.
Mm-hmm.
You might be in better shape than you could have ever imagined, but it's always good to talk to a lender. Have a budget. Don't, we tell clients all the time, like as soon as you get pre-approved or like you get an offer accepted, do not go buy new furniture. Do not do
Mm-hmm.
anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, really figure out, like if you're used to, you know, going to concerts or going to sporting events or going out to dinner like 3 or 4 times, a week, a month, whatever,
Right.
I want to calculate that into your budget because I
Mm-hmm.
don't, if your budget's $500,000, well, maybe let's find you something a little bit more so you have like that wiggle. If you like to travel, I don't want all those
Yeah.
things to go away just because you bought a house. I want that to be like, I want you to have a great place to come home to when you come home from Aruba or
Yeah.
wherever you go. I don't want your
That's
lifestyle
a great,
change.
that's a great point. And I will say, to add to your point
Mm,
about the mortgage lender, find somebody you really enjoy working with, because I
yes.
know that when I refinanced my house after my divorce, and so I bought it out myself, and I worked with somebody who, and I was in the middle of a divorce and I was very shaky and emotional. He was so wonderful and steadfast and like helped me through the whole process, and I'm forever indebted to him. So especially for first time home buyers, like, I recommend, and maybe you could give some insight on this, but like ask family and friends, you know, for
Yep.
referrals, recommendations, because, you know, that could really make or break your experience as the mortgage lender.
Yep. So I work with like just two that I've trusted. Um,
Yeah.
you basically get like basically one shot with me, and if you mess it up, like you're messing up someone's everything. And then my
Right.
clients look bad, you make me look bad, you make everybody look bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, always get referrals. Um, so many people now skip, they have to waive inspection, which I
Hmm.
get it. Like,
Well,
so,
can you talk about that for a second, because people might not know what that means.
okay, so when you make an offer, there's contingencies. There's the mortgage contingency that says, the house is going to appraise for X amount of dollars, that you're going to get a mortgage by this date, you're going to have your application in by this date. And then there's also the home inspection contingency that says you'll have a home inspection, you have to pay it for as the buyer. Um, Things can come up, and then you have an 11 days to either say we're going to move forward or we're going to back out.
Yep.
And what it is, they come in, they look at the whole structure, they look at the electrical, they look at the foundation, they look at the roof,
Yeah.
they look at the windows, they look at
Takes a long
everything.
time. Yeah.
Long time. But so many people, to make their offer more appealing, are just waiving inspection. And, you know, I'm very blessed. I have a dad that's a contractor, so he could always help me. But if you're just like a regular person, like, unless you really, 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 this is where I tell people this is where you have to follow your intuition.
Yeah.
If you walk in and you're like, don't do it. But if you're like, no, I feel great, let's just waive it. Okay, then. Like, this is where like
Right.
my clients have to lead with their intuition, because I don't want them looking back later and then like, well, you said you could waive the inspection. These things are like, this is what's going to carry you forward in your life. Not, I mean, I'll stay in touch with you, but I don't want, my biggest fear is like clients calling me in 5 years and being like, we can't afford
Right.
our house anymore, or, you know, you know, our floors are our floors are now
Right.
wobbling, our roof is caving in. Like, this
Right.
is my worst fear. And you can have an inspection and stuff can still happen, but an inspection is
Yeah.
very important if you have any question when it comes to, especially like around here, we have so much like older homes. You want to make sure
Yeah.
they're up to snuff.
I didn't
So
even know you could waive one. So interesting. I had no
yes,
idea.
you can waive
That's
inspection.
interesting.
You can also waive, so you can waive your um. So if you're paying cash, obviously there's no mortgage. A
Yeah.
big problem nowadays is, so this is the big thing. When people go in and they're putting $100,000 over asking price, which I think is absolutely ludicrous. If you think your home is worth that much, list it for that much.
Right.
A big problem that I've seen over the past few years is people put in these huge prices. The appraiser comes out and the appraisal will be off like $70,000. So that means either you as the
Right.
buyer have to make up that money. You got that
Right.
you have to work out some sort of negotiation
Right.
with the seller, or the deal's off. And this is happening a week to 2 weeks before you're closing. That is such added stress that nobody needs. And then the seller's
Yeah.
mad because they want that extra money. And
Yeah.
the buyer doesn't have an extra $70,000 in cash hanging around.
Right.
And it's just really messy, and it's not a good look for anybody. So I have a cap number that I try to make my clients stick by. I also do tons of research on comps in the area,
Yeah.
making sure that like if we put in this offer, like,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to go through. There's not going to be a hiccup later. It's just a horrible, horrible feeling.
Yeah, my agents, who are also on the guide, she's here on Long Island. She was saying the same thing, and how it's just like become so crazy with that because people are offering so much money, and
Mm.
the house is not getting appraised for that, and it's a mess for
It's a
sure.
bad look. But
Yeah.
before we hop up, I'm going to give some of my favorite
Yes.
tips that I give to people. So when you're selling a home,
Okay.
people always say you need to depersonalize. Great. But what I recommend is, instead, if you have pictures all over your wall, just get like Etsy prints and put them in, because if you take those pictures down, now you're going to have all these little holes. And so if you then you, so you have to like fix the holes, and then
Right.
that's going to delay everything. So instead of doing that, and like for me, when I'm walking around and if I see like all little holes in the walls, I'm thinking, okay, if they're not covering this and this is out in the open, what is hidden? What is the hidden problem? Because if this is in the open, what's in the
Right.
walls? So I always tell people,
Right.
maybe take down the photo, like the wedding, and just put in like a regular print from Etsy or whatever you want to buy. Plain and simple.
That's
Um,
smart. Very
yeah.
smart.
I always tell people to, sorry, my brain just stopped. Oh, clean up, like someone come in, like do a deep clean, have like somebody come in, clean your home. Landscaping, you would not believe what some fresh mulch and maybe some flowers, like even just like hanging plants, will do for the outside of your home. If you can get your house power washed, that's great, but if not, just a little landscaping, spruce it up. you know Pick up any of like the weird tchotchkes that you got hanging around. Fix that up. Make, yes, curb appeal is super important.
Yep. Yep.
um Countertops, clean up like all your countertops. Like obviously you have your coffee and stuff there, but like nobody wants to see like your Con Ed bill or things like that. Obviously hide all your medications, take all your jewelry, all kind of that stuff. Keep it away.
That's good.
Um, that's more for like the selling side.
Okay.
I also tell my sellers to be flexible. Like you might have this number in your head, but numbers, when you're looking at a sale, the offer is obviously the money, but like you want to look at someone's financing. You want to look at like if they're going to waive like inspection, what's
Yep.
their closing date? If you have to find a place to live, are they willing to work with you? There's a lot that goes into an offer. It's not just the number.
Right.
And for buyers, my best tip is to like be smart, but take a break. Don't burn yourself out the first 2 months. It's a long process. For some people, it takes years.
Yeah.
So if you need to say like, let's put a pin in it for like a
Right.
week, 2 weeks, That's the best thing you can do, because if you get burnt out, I hate for people to move into a house and they feel so defeated by the time they got to it. I want you to walk in and be like, this is like,
That's
we did this.
true.
Yeah.
That's so true. And also, I do know that when you get burnt out, your intuition's not as strong, right? So it's hard to follow your intuition if you're so burnt out that you can't judge what's going on around you.
So what the difference of seller with the financing is. Okay, so obviously cash is king. So cash is you don't have to worry about that. But certain loans are stronger to qualify than others. So like a conventional loan, like 20% down, that means like you have the money in the collateral. So it's less money that the bank is lending. Something like an FHA, which is you're only putting down 3.5%. That means it's going to be more money from the bank, which is more risk of the loan failing and the loan going into like what's the word, foreclosure. So that's why financing is important, and you should always kind of look at what kind of finance. It shouldn't be the be all end all, but it should definitely be a factor when you're looking. If there's like a $5,000 difference and something's an FHA and something's 20% down, I would say go with the 20% down, because that's pretty much guaranteed funding. The FHA is a little bit, so there's a lot more ramifications and there's a lot more problems that could pop up.
That's interesting, right? Because of the risk of the offer falling through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jen, will you do some blog posts for us on all this? Because you have so much to share.
Yes, I'll definitely write up some blog posts.
Okay.
If you ever have any questions, whether it's, regarding real estate or just like the spiritual holistic side, I would love to chat with anybody. It's been such a fun time. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you have such great tips. You have awesome tips. I love everything you said. We're definitely going to mine you for some content and, put some blog posts together. Because I love what you said. You're like, your number one tip for buyers is to take a break. I think that most people wouldn't say that. I really think that most people wouldn't tell buyers to do that. But I think that that's, you can't think straight when you're so like running yourself ragged.
It's so emotional, and I think it's probably one of like the hardest things to do right now in this market. So if you need to take a week, a month, I have some clients who take a year. You know what? That's cool. I don't, like I said, when you get into that house, I want it to be like you're crossing the finish line. I don't want it to be like you walking, like you just made it to the, yes.
So I have one more question for you, and it's personal. So like for somebody like me, who I know the location, like I know where I want to be, but there's nothing for sale in my price range where I want to be. What would you recommend to somebody that is in that predicament? Just be patient and just keep your eye on this situation?
So what I always do is you have your place, like you have what you want in mind. If you're cool with living with your parents, I would stick it out as long as possible, because also you're just pocketing more money. So like the more money that you like can squirrel away, more you're going to like, that's going to add up real quick, I also sometimes look, I don't know what your price point is, but say like your price point is like 500,000, like that's like your max. I will look at like just above 5, between like 5 to 525, and see if something's been sitting there for a little while. Because if something's been sitting there for 30 days, you might be able to have a little wiggle room where you can negotiate and get them down, because somebody would rather take $500,000 than no $100,000.
Right.
That's how, like, so that's a lot of times what I will do if like things have been, my clients, that's actually how I found one of my clients' home, is I looked at a price point, and this was, I'd say it was like $12,000 over. They actually did a price drop a week later.
Okay.
I just kept my eye on the house for a while, and they had a price drop, and we ended up getting them within budget, and now that's the home that they live in.
I love that. That's smart. That's to just keep your eye. I mean, it's so easy with the internet, right? You can just watch everything, and, and do you recommend going to the neighborhood and just walking around sometimes and seeing how you feel?
So That's a great tip. So like getting around, like if you don't really like know the neighbor, like the area well, kind of take a
Yeah.
drive through, like, you're bored on a Sunday, take a pop by. A lot of my clients are very like specific on where they live. So if you can, you know, don't get so, you know, look at the neighborhood, like obviously look at the houses, see if you're driving through and you're like, oh, this is not going to work, then that's not going to, if you're not even out of the car yet and it's not going to work, then it's definitely not going to work inside the house.
Right. That's
Um,
true. Right.
so it's always good to like be aware of your surroundings. Like I said, don't get like a location is one thing, but like when you're very specific on the town, it makes things like it's going to make it a lot harder for you and like the people that you're working with. So try to be like a little bit open. I say like pick your favorite town, and then we're going to go like 5 to 7 miles around, and
Right.
then hope that something will pop up in there.
And do you recommend dropping a letter into the mailbox, even if it's not for sale yet? Somebody said.
So legally you can't drop a letter in the mailbox because you can't touch anybody's mail. But I had clients, we went to an open house and they absolutely, absolutely, absolutely loved the neighborhood. So what I did is I went online and I looked at public record and I looked at every house that has been lived in for, I think it was like 25 to 30 years. Like, so people who had been living in the neighborhood for a long time and would probably be moving out. And I sent everyone a personal letter saying, hey, I have my clients love this neighborhood. If you ever think about selling, this is my information. Please reach out. We could have a seamless negotiate. We could have a seamless contract. We could have a seamless whole entire process. Please reach out to me. Like there's ways to make it work. You just have to like think outside the box. And that's like a big thing. Like don't get so stuck in the box. Like think on top of it, around it, and under it.
Yeah.
Because in this market, that's what's going to make the difference.
I love that. And that's why you're successful and why your
Thank
clients
you.
love you.
Thank you.
So, Jen, thank you so much. This was so enlightening as somebody that's literally going through the process. We're definitely going to have you back on to do more tarot and Reiki stuff because you're really, really, really talented at that too.
Thank you.
So we're going to have you on for that. Thank you for everything. If anybody wants to ask Jen anything, please make sure to follow her. We're going to share this, obviously. She is always sharing such great tips and everything. So go give Jen a follow. Jen, thank you for being here and for chatting.
Thank you for having me.
And you're so knowledgeable about everything. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah. And promise me you're going to take a break. Just chill out. You've just been through so much.
I'm going to go take a break right now, but I'm going to take a break too. I'm not ready to look for a house yet. And that's me following my intuition as I know that I'm not ready. So, but I love all the knowledge and everything, all these tips, especially with the selling. My house isn't even on the market yet. It's taken so long to just get it ready to sell. So I hear you, but this was so great. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Jen.
Bye-bye.